There is trouble brewing at the Roundhouse. It is a public safety issue that's not only dangerous, it's illegal.
And even though it's going on in plain sight, not one of our elected legislators noticed. But News 13 investigative reporter Larry Barker did. Here's Larry's report, Roundhouse Wrongdoing.
When did you first find out that this was an issue?
Yesterday when you called me.
My first reaction was I was surprised.
I could assure you that was not intentional.
Uh-oh, something's amiss at the state capitol, and it's got a bunch of state officials scrambling. Lawmakers are supposed to make laws, not break them. A News 13 investigation uncovered evidence of wrongdoing at the Roundhouse, where the legislature is conducting business amid COVID-19 and threats of violence.
In order to pull off this year's legislative session, lawmakers had to be creative and write a whole new set of rules. But even in the midst of a pandemic, there's one rule that simply cannot be broken. It's the fire code.
Due to security concerns, the state capitol building is mostly off limits. The only way in or out is through a checkpoint in the Capitol Annex. All doors on the ground floor of the Roundhouse are locked, including those at the east and west entrances. That means unwanted visitors can't get in. It also means those on the inside can't get out. You see, when lawmakers sealed the Capitol, they violated the life safety code by unlawfully locking emergency exits.
Locked. 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 Locked.
Any door marked with an illuminated exit sign is classified as an emergency exit and cannot be locked from the inside while the building is occupied. Last week, the fire alarm was triggered from a small electrical fire in the Capitol.
There were a few people who went to the west side doors, tried to open them, realized that they were locked.
Legislative Council Service Director Raul Burciaga oversees building security.
I was advised that those doors were closed, and some staff were not aware of that.
The fire code is what keeps people alive and keeps people safe.
Ray Torres is Deputy State Fire Marshal for Code Enforcement. Are there any circumstances where marked exit doors in a public building can be locked from the inside during normal business hours?
No, there's no exceptions.
When did you find out about this incident?
I learned yesterday when we got a call from you.
State Rep Brian Egoff is Speaker of the House.
I called folks at Building Services to basically ask them to get to the bottom of it, ask them to correct the problem.
What was the reasoning behind locking the doors in the Roundhouse?
The glass doors were locked as a part of closing the building off to the public, and also for security based on the recommendations of state police and Homeland Security.
Did either state police or Homeland Security, did they advise you that those exit doors cannot be locked?
They did not. It didn't come up in our discussions.
We probably need to all educate ourselves on the actual fire code.
Tim Johnson is the Department of Public Safety's interim cabinet secretary.
We discussed evacuation plans should the building get breached. We discussed shelter-in-place plans, active shooter, and I guess I failed to or neglected to factor in any fire type evacuations and that involve the fire code. Being the cabinet secretary of this organization, I mean, that responsibility lies with me ultimately, and I neglected to factor in any fire-related evacuations or fire code situations.
Following our investigation, Roundhouse staffers proceeded to unlock exit doors. Signage on improperly marked emergency exits was corrected.
We have been talking with state police and Homeland Security, mostly state police, about how we keep those doors secured to some degree, or make sure that they're immediately open when there is an emergency.
Despite unlocking some doors, the Capitol building is still not fully compliant with safety regs. A state fire marshal inspection Wednesday found the Roundhouse is in violation of ADA requirements because these handicapped accessible sliding doors remain locked.
It was not intentional. We need to educate ourselves on the fire code to ensure we don't do this in the future, and maybe look at some other ways of securing the Capitol.
Larry Barker, KRQE News 13.